I'll give you $10 million if you translate this, laughed the billionaire. But the shy waitress silenced him. The diner was almost empty when she heard the laughter. Emma wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that night, her apron stained with coffee and ketchup, her feet aching in worn sneakers. The rain had been falling steadily for hours, drumming against the windows like a lullaby she couldn't quite hear over the hum of the old refrigerator. She glanced up at the clock, 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes until closing. That's when 3 men in expensive suits walked in, their voices loud and careless, filling the quiet space she'd been guarding all evening. One of them, tall, silver-haired, with a watch that probably cost more than her car, dropped a leather briefcase on the corner booth and laughed again. Emma tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and walked over, notepad in hand, trying to summon a smile. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change. Asterisk, where are you watching from tonight? Asterisk. Emma had been working at Rosie's Diner since she was 22. 3 years of early mornings and late nights, of learning regulars' orders by heart and pretending not to notice when someone left without tipping. She knew every crack in the vinyl booths, every flickering light above the counter. This place wasn't glamorous, but it was hers in a way, her routine, her rhythm, her small corner of the world. The silver-haired man ordered coffee, black. His 2 companions, younger, sharper-looking, ordered the same. Emma poured carefully, her hands steady despite the way they were looking at her. Not unkindly, but with a sort of curiosity that made her feel like an exhibit. Long night, the older man asked, his voice smooth, accented in a way she couldn't quite place. Every night's long, she said softly, setting down the cups. He smiled. Honest. I like that. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a piece of paper, old, yellowed, covered in strange symbols and flowing script she'd never seen before. Tell me, miss, can you read this? Emma leaned closer, frowning. The writing was beautiful, almost artistic, but completely foreign. She shook her head. I'm sorry, I can't. The man's smile widened. Of course not. No one can. It's an ancient dialect, dead for centuries. I've had scholars, linguists, even artificial intelligence try to crack it. Nothing. He leaned back, folding his arms. I'll give you $10 million if you can translate even one line. His companions laughed. Emma's cheeks flushed. She didn't know if he was mocking her or testing her, but either way, it stung. She started to turn away when something on the paper caught her eye, a symbol in the corner, delicate and precise. Her grandmother had drawn something like that once, in the margins of an old cookbook. Emma had been 7, watching her bake bread, and her grandmother had whispered, Asterisk, this is our family's mark. Remember it, asterisk. Emma's heart quickened. She pointed to the symbol. This means home, doesn't it? The diner went silent. The man's smile vanished. The silver-haired man stared at her, his eyes sharp and unreadable. How do you know that? Emma's voice wavered. My grandmother, she used to draw things like this. She never explained them. I thought they were just doodles. She traced the symbol with her fingertip, remembering the warmth of her grandmother's kitchen, the smell of rising dough, the way her voice had sounded, low and lilting, like a song from another world. One of the younger men leaned forward. Sir, this is... Quiet, the older man said, never taking his eyes off Emma. He slid the paper closer to her. What else do you see? Emma hesitated. She didn't want to be wrong, didn't want to seem foolish in front of these men who probably knew 100 languages she'd never heard of. But something inside her, some old, buried instinct, urged her forward. She looked at the next line, a series of curved marks that seemed to flow like water. I think this is something about a river, or maybe a journey. The man exhaled slowly. A journey across the river of forgetting, he murmured. That's a literal translation. He sat back, studying her with something close to wonder. Your grandmother, where was she from? I don't know, Emma admitted, her voice small. She died when I was 12. She never talked about her past. My mom said she came from somewhere far away, but that was all. The man nodded slowly, as if pieces of a puzzle were falling into place. This language, he said quietly, belonged to a people who were lost to history, scattered, hidden, Most of them forgot who they were. He paused, but some remembered. Some passed it down, in whispers and symbols, hoping their children would one day understand. Emma felt tears prick her eyes, though she didn't know why. The paper in front of her seemed to hum with something ancient and alive, something that had been sleeping inside her all along. Asterisk if this moment touched your heart. Please give the video a thumbs up. Asterisk. The older man stood, leaving $100 bill on the table. I'll be back tomorrow night, he said, and I'll bring more. If you can truly read this, then you're the answer I've been searching for. He looked at her one more time, and for the first time that night, his expression was kind. Your grandmother gave you a gift. Miss, don't let it go to waste. Then they were gone, the door swinging shut behind them, leaving him alone with the rain and the paper and the impossible weight of something she didn't yet understand. Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table, the yellowed paper spread out before her, a cup of cold tea forgotten at her elbow. She'd taken a photo of it before the man left, and now she stared at the symbols, trying to coax meaning from their curves and angles. Some of them sparked recognition, faint, fleeting, but others remained stubbornly silent. She thought about her grandmother, about the story she'd half told and never finished, about the way she used to hum while she cooked, melodies that didn't sound like anything on the radio, about the small wooden box she'd kept on her dresser, locked and mysterious, that had disappeared after she died. Emma's mother had never spoken of it, and eventually Emma had stopped asking. But now she wondered what had been inside, what secrets had her grandmother carried, locked away in wooden silence. The next evening, Emma arrived at the diner early, her hands shaking as she tied her apron. The silver-haired man came at 9, alone this time, carrying a worn leather satchel. He slid into the same booth, and Emma brought him coffee without being asked. I tried, she said quietly, sitting across from him. I can see some of it, fragments, but it's like trying to remember a dream. The harder I reach, the more it slips away. He nodded, unsurprised. That's how it works. The language was designed to be forgotten, except by those who carry it in their blood. He opened the satchel and pulled out a small, carved wooden box. Emma's breath caught. It looked exactly like the one her grandmother had owned. This belonged to a woman named Adira, the man said softly. She was one of the last keepers of the old knowledge. She vanished 30 years ago, but before she did, she entrusted this to me. She said that one day someone would come who could open it, someone who carried her gift. He placed the box in Emma's hands. It was warm, smooth, covered in the same symbol she'd been studying. And in the center, carved deep and precise, was a mark her grandmother had drawn, the symbol that meant Asterisk home star. Emma's hands trembled. I don't understand. Adira, the man said gently, was your grandmother's name, before she became the woman you knew. Before she hid herself away in a quiet American town, she was one of the greatest translators of the lost languages, and she left this for you. Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. The box felt impossibly heavy, impossibly light. But I don't know how to open it. The man smiled. Yes, you do. You just have to remember. Asterisk, have you ever faced something like this? Share your story in the comments. Asterisk. Emma closed her eyes. She thought of her grandmother's hands, strong and gentle. She thought of the bread rising in the oven, the hum of old songs, the way the light had slanted through the kitchen window. And she whispered the only word she remembered her grandmother teaching her, a word she thought was nonsense, a silly rhyme. The box clicked open. Inside the box was a single folded letter written in the same flowing script as the document the man had shown her. But this time, as Emma looked at it, the symbols didn't blur or slip away. They settled into meaning, clear and bright, as if a veil had been lifted from her eyes. She read aloud, her voice trembling. Asterisk to my beloved granddaughter, asterisk. Asterisk by the time you read this, I will be gone. I spent my life running from who I was, afraid that the world would punish me for the knowledge I carried. But in hiding, I lost something precious. I lost my voice. Asterisk. Asterisk, you were born with a gift I tried to bury. You carry the language of our people in your bones, in your heart. Do not fear it. Do not hide it as I did. Asterisk. Asterisk, the world needs translators. My darling, not just of words, but of hearts. People who can bridge the spaces between what is lost and what is found. You are one of them. Asterisk. Asterisk use this gift. Let it make you brave. Asterisk. Asterisk with all my love. Adira. Asterisk. Emma's tears fell onto the page, but she didn't wipe them away. The diner around her seemed to glow, warm and golden, as if her grandmother's presence had filled the space. The silver-haired man watched her quietly, his own eyes damp. She wanted you to have this, he said, pulling out another document, thicker, bound in leather. It's a collection of lost writings, stories, and histories that the world thought were gone forever. I've spent 40 years trying to translate them. And now I'm asking for your help. Emma looked at him, at the document, at the letter in her hands. She thought of the long shifts, the aching feet, the tips counted in crumpled dollars. She thought of the life she'd been living, small, safe, predictable. And she thought of her grandmother, who had buried her voice but had given Emma the chance to find her own. "I'll do it," she whispered. "I'll help you." The man smiled, and for the first time, Emma saw not a billionaire or a stranger, but someone who understood loss and hope in equal measure. Then we begin tomorrow. Asterisk if you've been enjoying this story. Subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Asterisk. Emma walked home that night through the rain, the box tucked carefully under her arm. The city lights blurred and shimmered, and she felt as if she were walking between two worlds, the one she'd known and the one waiting just ahead. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a keeper of something ancient and precious. She was her grandmother's granddaughter, and that was enough. 6 months later, Emma stood in a university lecture hall, her hand steady as she held up a translated manuscript. The room was full of scholars, historians, people who had spent their lives chasing fragments of the past, and they were listening to her. She still worked at Rosie's Diner 3 nights a week, not because she had to, but because it grounded her, reminded her where she'd come from. The regulars still greeted her by name, still left tips on the counter, still asked how she was doing. But now, when they asked, she had stories to tell. The silver-haired man, whose name, she'd learned, was Dr. Elias Reno, had become her mentor and friend. Together, they'd unlocked histories that had been silent for centuries, giving voice to people the world had forgotten. Emma's gift, it turned out, wasn't just in reading the symbols. It was in understanding what they meant, the heartache and hope embedded in every line. She thought of her grandmother often. Sometimes, late at night, she swore she could still hear that old humming, soft and warm, weaving through the quiet. She kept the wooden box on her nightstand, and every morning she touched the symbol carved into its surface, the mark that meant asterisk home star. Because she understood now, home wasn't a place. It was a legacy, a gift passed down through trembling hands and whispered words. It was a courage to remember, even when the world wanted you to forget. Emma had found her voice, and in doing so, she'd found herself. The rain still fell on the diner windows, gentle and constant. But now, when Emma wiped down the counter at the end of the long shift, she did so with a smile, because she knew that every ending was just another beginning, and every quiet moment held the promise of something extraordinary. She was a waitress. She was a translator. She was a bridge between worlds. And she was exactly where she was meant to be. Asterisk if you enjoyed this story. Please like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Asterisk.